This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information and to find out how you can volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Dear Enemy by Jean Webster. Part 11. Saturday afternoon. Dear Judy and Jarvis, Brother Jimmy, we're very alliterative, spurred on by sundry begging letters from me, has at last sent us a present. But he picked him out himself. We have a monkey. His name is Java. The children no longer hear the school bell ring. On the day the creature came, this entire institution formed in line and filed past and shook his paw. Poor Sing's nose is out of joint. I have to pay to have him washed. Sadie Kate is developing into my private secretary. I have her answer the thank you letters for the institution, and her literary style is making a hit among our benefactors. She invariably calls out a second gift. I'd hitherto believed that the Kilcoyne family sprang from the wild west of Ireland, but I begin to suspect that their source was near Blarney Castle. You can see from the enclosed copy of the letter she sent to Jimmy what a persuasive pen the young person has. I trust that in this case at least it will not bear the fruit that she suggests. Dear Mr. Jimmy, we thank you very much for the lovely monkey you give. We name him Java because that's a warm island across the ocean where he was born up in a nest like a bird, only big, the doctor told us. The first day he came, every boy and girl shook his hand and said, "Good morning, Java." His hand feels funny, he holds so tight. I was afraid to touch him, but now I let him sit on my shoulder and put his arms around my neck if he wants to. He makes a funny noise that sounds like swearing and gets mad when his tail is pulled. We love him dearly, and we love you too. The next time you have to give a present, please send an elephant. Well, I guess I'll stop. Yours truly, Sadie Kate Kilcoyne. Percy de Forest Witherspoon is still faithful to his little followers. I am so afraid he will get tired that I urge him to take frequent vacations. He's not only been faithful himself, but has brought in recruits. He has large social connections in the neighbourhood, and last Saturday evening he introduced 2 friends, nice men who sat around the campfire and swapped hunting stories. One of them was just back from around the world and told hair-raising anecdotes of the headhunters of Sarawak, a narrow pink country on the top of Borneo. My little braves pant to grow up and get to Sarawak and go out on the warpath after headhunters. Every encyclopedia in this institution has been consulted, and there isn't a boy here who cannot tell you the history, manners, climate, flora and fungi of Borneo. I only wish Mr. Witherspoon would introduce friends who had been headhunting in England, France and Germany, countries not quite so chic as Sarawak, but more useful for general culture. We have a new cook, the 4th since my reign began. I haven't bothered you with my cooking troubles, but institutions don't escape any more than families. The last is a Negro woman, a big, fat, smiling, chocolate-coloured creature from South Carolina. And ever since she came, on honeydew we've fed. Her name is, what do you guess? Sally, if you please. I suggested that she change it. "Show, miss, I've had that name Sally longer than you, and I couldn't get used nohow to answering that pert like when you sings out, 'Molly.' Seems like Sally just belongs to me." So Sally she remains. But at least there is no danger of our getting our letters mixed, for her last name is nothing so plebeian as McBride. It's Johnston Washington, with a hyphen. Sunday. Our favourite game of late is finding pet names for Sandy. His austere presence lends itself to caricature. We have just originated a new batch. The Laird of Cockpen is Percy's choice. The Laird of Cockpen, he's proud and he's great. His mind is taken up with the things of the state. Miss Snaith disgustedly calls him that man, and Betsy refers to him, in his absence, as Dr. Codliver. My present favourite is Macpherson Clun McGlockety Angus McClan, but for real poetic feeling, Sadie Kate beats us all. She calls him Mr. Someday Soon. I don't believe that the doctor ever dropped into verse but once in his life, but every child in this institution knows that one poem by heart. Someday soon something nice is going to happen. Be a good little girl and take this hint. Swallow with a smile your cod liver or ile, and the first thing you know you will have a peppermint. It's this evening that Betsy and I attend his supper party, and I confess that we are looking forward to seeing the interior of his gloomy mansion with gleeful eagerness. He never talks about himself, or his past, or anybody connected with himself. He appears to be an isolated figure standing on a pedestal labelled Science, without a glimmer of any ordinary affections or emotions or human frailties, except temper. Betsy and I are simply eaten up with curiosity to know what sort of past he came out of. But just let us get inside his house, and to our detective senses it will tell its own story. So long as the portal was guarded by a fierce McGurk, we'd despaired of ever effecting an entrance. But now, behold, the door has opened of its own accord. To be continued. S. McB. Monday. Dear Judy, we attended the doctor's supper party last night, Betsy and Mr. Witherspoon and I. It turned out a passably cheerful occasion, though I will say that it began under heavy auspices. His house on the inside is all that the outside promises. Never in my life have I seen such an interior as that man's dining room. The walls and carpets and lambrequins are a heavy dark green. A black marble mantelpiece shelters a few smoking black coals. The furniture is as nearly black as furniture comes. The decorations are two steel engravings in shiny black frames, the monarch of the glen and the stag at bay. We tried hard to be light and sparkling, but it was like eating supper in the family vault. Mrs. McGurk, in black alpaca with a black silk apron, clumped around the table, passing cold, heavy things to eat, with a step so firm that she rattled the silver in the sideboard drawers. Her nose was up and her mouth was down. She clearly does not approve of the master's entertaining, and she wishes to discourage all guests from ever accepting again. Sandy sort of dimly knows that there is something the matter with his house, and in order to brighten it up a bit in honour of his guests, he'd purchased flowers, dozens of them, the most exquisite pink Killarney roses and red and yellow tulips. The McGurk had wedged them all together as tight as they would fit into a peacock blue jardiniere and plumped it down in the centre of the table. The thing was as big as a bushel basket. Betsy and I nearly forgot our manners when we saw that centrepiece, but the doctor seemed so innocently pleased at having obtained a bright note in his dining room that we suppressed our amusement and complimented him warmly upon his happy colour scheme. The moment supper was over, we hastened with relief to his own part of the house, where the McGurk's influence does not penetrate. No one in a cleaning capacity ever enters either his library or office or laboratory, except Llewellyn, a short, wiry, bow-legged Welshman who combines to a unique degree the qualities of chambermaid and chauffeur. The library, though not the most cheerful room I've ever seen, still, for a man's house, is not so bad. Books all around from floor to ceiling, with the overflow in piles on floor and table and mantelpiece. Half a dozen abysmal leather chairs and a rug or so, with another black marble mantelpiece, but this time containing a crackling wood fire. By way of bric-a-brac, he has a stuffed pelican and a crane with a frog in its mouth. Also, a raccoon sitting on a log and a varnished tarpon. A faint suggestion of iodoform floats in the air. The doctor made the coffee himself in a French machine, and we dismissed his housekeeper from our spirits. He really did do his best to be a thoughtful host, and I have to report that the word insanity was not once mentioned. It seems that Sandy, in his moments of relaxation, is a fisherman. He and Percy began swapping stories of salmon and trout, and he finally got out his case of fishing flies, and gallantly presented Betsy and me with a silver doctor and a Jack Scott, out of which to make hat-pins. Then the conversation wandered to sport on the Scotch moors, and he told about one time when he was lost and spent the night out in the heather. There's no doubt about it, Sandy's heart is in the Highlands,